Hey there, Erin Lee here of heavenlymessenger.com and Universal Connections. Today is Sunday, June the 19th, and I am on my own today. Bobbi is celebrating Father's Day with her family, and I managed to sneak off for a couple of hours. So we will end at 4:30 this evening so I can go and make dinner for my dad tonight. So first of all, I thought that we would just kind of fly by the seat of our pants. I wasn't 100% sure if I was going to be able to come on today and connect with you guys. So I don't have too much prepared, but I thought, what a wonderful day to connect with you guys, see what you've got coming up in terms of questions and comments. We won't be doing readings today, but I think that we can still manage to have a lot of fun together. I am still on the tail end of my cold, so my apologies in advance if I am coughing. I'm here loaded with my water and pardon me, my Ricola. So I might also be taking cough drops while we're talking, but hey, that's just what it is. It is also an incredibly beautiful day here on Vancouver Island. So I decided we'd set up outside. So please let me know if you're able to see me clearly and hopefully hear me clearly too. We do have a bit of the ocean waves in the background. If I'm quiet for a moment, you might be able to hear them. Here, I'll point my microphone over there. Awesome. So I see that we've got a couple of people popping on to join us today. That's amazing. Thank you. Hello to Leslie and to Carrie. Thanks so much for popping on and for commenting. And Leslie says, Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday to you too. I'm so glad you're here. And thank you, Carrie, for saying I look refreshed. I am feeling like I'm getting close to that. um, so yeah, as I said, I thought that we would see what comes up in the comments in terms of things to talk about. I did think about a couple of things that we could talk about this week. So why don't we start with what I had coming up? So first of all, we just had the full moon last Sunday. I was really disappointed that I wasn't well enough to join you guys last Sunday for the connection with intention. Or pardon me, no. I'm getting myself mixed up for our Oracle chats with Bobbi because it was the full moon and I love doing full moon stuff with you guys. But I did take some pictures of what I did for the full moon. So I'll just show you here. Unfortunately, they don't come through too clearly on the screen when I share them. But this is the full strawberry moon coming up over Baines Sound, which is in Union Bay on Vancouver Island. Union Bay is part of the Comox Valley. And this was just before the full moon came up, about 20 minutes before. And during the full moon, I love doing releasing work. So you'll see I've got some of my crystals out here. This is the the fire that burned with all of the releasing that I did that evening. And I believe I've got one more picture of that to share with you as well. Yeah, and you can just see up here in the very top, I just used my cell phone camera to take these pictures. So you can just barely see the moon there with all of the releasing. So, one of the things that I've been thinking, especially now that the weather is getting nicer and it's nicer to be outside, is that on the fly, I might hop onto the live and invite you guys to join me for the full moon releasing, and we'll go into more depth, and because I'm outside, we'll be able to burn stuff too. So as I said, it'll be on the fly, but hopefully the weather will be nice enough we'll be able to do that. Awesome. Let me see. Okay, so Carrie has here, what can we expect in the next week? In the next week or the next weeks? Let's take a look. So when I feel into the energy of what's coming up, I have a lot of releasing that's coming through for people. It feels like there's still a lot of heaviness, but I'm feeling people being ready to start letting that go, to let that come off. So if you do notice over the next little while that you've got particularly old stuff coming up, old stuff usually comes up energetically in our back, in our neck, because it's stuff that we've used to kind of shield ourselves. So this could be old thought patterns or old thought processes that you've gone through, possibly old ideas or old belief systems that are maybe coming up to be challenged or to be questioned. So I'd really encourage you to take time to create space for that, to create space for that exploration. Movement can be really helpful when it comes to releasing that. So, dance or yoga or stretching, particularly anything that you're doing that's connecting with your back. You could also do like strength training or other physical activity as well. But for myself, I found those to be really helpful ones for releasing the stuff that we hold on to in our body. Um, and for me in particular, I've got a lot of injury in my back from a couple of car accidents that I was in like 20, 25 years ago. And and so those are areas where I, in particular, know that I hold a lot of that old stuff, because when you experience injury, a lot of the trauma, a lot of the emotion that you experience at that same time becomes trapped there. So we have the opportunity at this time to start releasing that. So if you've got stuff that you're like, hey, I've been holding on to this for a long time, this could also be stuff that has been inherited as well, either ideas that you have inherited from family members or the other people who were influencing you in your younger years, or things that have been inherited from like a genetic point of view, because we do know that we inherit stress and trapped emotion and all of those different things from our biological families. So there can be a lot that's coming up over the next couple of weeks. But I do see a lot of refreshing energy that's coming through too. A lot of the things that I've just talked about have felt kind of heavier, a little bit deeper. But I am seeing that we have more refreshing moments too. And I suspect that a big part of that has to do with the season that we're in right now. This tends to be a time when people are not committing to as much from, say, like a work perspective, where they're maybe taking some more time for themselves, for their family. Maybe there's some vacation that's coming up. And that tends to bring a lot of lighthearted energy. It's really interesting how the general dynamic of what people are experiencing, how much of an impact it has on a bigger global level as well. So, here in North America and in the West, that's a big part of what we're going through and experiencing. And hopefully we're also experiencing some more pleasant weather too. I know in the East they've had some really hot weather. Here on the West Coast, we've been pretty cool. So I'm seeing a bit of balancing hopefully with that too. That was a great question. Let me see. Oh, thank you, Leslie. I'm so glad that you enjoyed the photos. And hello to Chantel. It's wonderful to see you. I'm so glad that you hopped on today. And Carrie's saying that she's in. You are ready for some releasing. And actually, that brings me to the next thing. So there was a wonderful little fairy angel who delivered a couple of really beautiful gifts to me that I wanted to share. I've never been one to share gifts when I receive them, mostly because I don't want people to feel that they need to bring me gifts. And if I put a lot out there, then I have the sense that people would feel that they need to bring me gifts. So please know that you never have to bring me anything, but my goodness, if you do, I am so grateful and appreciative. And so there was a little fairy angel, Carrie, this past week who dropped by some beautiful gifts because we'd spoken about them on the show. And one of them was this gorgeous malachite and azurite. Geez, I really hope that you guys can see that, because I know that my lighting's kind of funny with all of the extra lighting. So we've got this beautiful malachite and azurite. And you might say, Erin, why are you bringing this up? Well, I'm bringing it up because malachite is one of the best stones, best crystals for bringing stuff up to the surface. Old stuff that's holding you back, anything that is a heart related, any sort of emotion, but particularly those really heart like emotions, they really come to the forefront in the surface. So if you find yourself going through some of the stuff that we've been talking about, like the releasing and stuff from the past that's coming up to be released, grab a piece of malachite if you have it and have that with you. It's really helpful to balance it out with some of the softer, more compassionate stones. My favorite combination is definitely rose quartz with malachite, because rose quartz is just so compassionate. It's unconditional love, unconditional support. So have the two of those with you. Stick them in your bra if you wear a bra, or have them close to your heart in some other way if you can. If you're doing meditation, you can hold them at your heart or lie them down on your chest. That's a really great way to bring that energy and invite it in as well. So Carrie, thank you. Yeah. Let me see. So let me see. Erin, I know it's kind of confusing because Bobbi, when she does the lives on her own, Bobbi does readings. And I don't do readings on the lives here because I have my Tuesday night show. So we're not doing readings today, but we are asking general questions. So if you've got some general questions coming up that you want to have a deeper understanding about psychic ability or spirit or angels, I am more than happy to answer that. I would love to connect with you. Hi, Ruth. It's wonderful to see you. I hope that you're well. Let me see. Oops. Sorry. Oh, I'm seeing a couple of people saying that they can't see the crystal. Yeah, it's unfortunate with the lighting that I have here. What I'll do is I'll take what is hopefully a better picture later, and I'll share it with you guys. Awesome. My comments here keep jumping up and down. So Carrie's also here on Vancouver Island. As I said, our weather has been rather cool for us, and she's saying, we will get a summer, say August or September. Yeah, I can't imagine that we won't have a summer. I'd be really surprised if we didn't. So I'm sure that it's getting better. Yeah. And Adrian's talking about interesting that she's never thought of holding things in your back. Yeah, absolutely. Typically, the things that come up on the front of our body, they tend to be the things that we're currently dealing with or we're currently experiencing on an energetic level. And part of the reason for that is it's really fresh. We're really able to hold it. So if you're holding a lot, say in your stomach, and for anybody who is sensitive, clairsentient in particular, a lot of us will tend to put weight on in our stomachs, particularly over the solar plexus chakra, which is the yellow chakra. It's just above the belly button. Because it's a form of protection and it's part of how we protect ourselves. So things that we're currently experiencing, currently going through, we hold it on the front of our body. But the old stuff, that becomes a form of protection for us, and it goes into our back. So yeah, if you experience back pain, don't be surprised if as you start to pick away at the emotional stuff that either you'll have some stuff in your back flare up because you're poking at things, or you'll start to experience some relief with the symptoms that you're experiencing. So yeah, it's really interesting. I love talking about energy. Yeah. And hello to Ba. It's wonderful to see you as always. Thanks for joining us. Let me see. Yeah, so Leslie's saying I ordered some malachite and clear quartz from Carrie last week. Sweet. That's awesome. I'm so excited. Just need to go to town to pick them up. That's amazing. That's awesome. Yeah. And I'm glad that you mentioned that. One of the things that Bobbi and I are planning on doing with the Universal Connections. We do have a website. Right now, we've just been sharing these videos that we've been posting and sharing and putting up, but we will start to have speakers coming on, so people who are going to be talking with us. In fact, we've lined up at least the first two. We have an announcement coming up. I believe it's for June the 10th, so we'll have a special visitor joining us for that, so that's exciting. But we also want to have a bit of a listing and a bit of directory of people who are doing different things. So we'll have more information about that as soon as we figure it out. But we would so love to support you guys because you support us, and that's what community is all about. So awesome. Yes, and Chantel's saying she always has stones in her bra. Yep, me too. I'm not wearing one at the moment, but usually I do as well. Awesome. Let me see. Hello, Rose. It's great to see you. I'm so glad that you've joined us today. And Rose is also confirming that emotions stay in the body. Absolutely. Like, we hold on to this stuff, but it's really interesting because animals don't. And I can't remember the psychologist that I was listening to. He was quite profound. It was really interesting. If anybody knows who I'm talking about, please pop it down in the comments, because I would love to, one, make sure that I'm getting it right, and two, give credit where credit is due. And what he was saying is that animals, when they experience a significant fright, so I believe the example that he was giving was of a deer being chased by like a wolf or a coyote or a predator. And what they'll do is they will, one of the only defenses that they have is to play dead. And if something pulls their predator away and the deer is able to get away, they actually give a really big shake, and then they kind of move on, and they don't seem to have any ill effect from the significant fright that they would have just gone through, because they have this process that they go through where they're physically releasing all of that pent up energy, and I'm sure like that fear emotion that they would experience as well. And for humans, we don't do that when we have been in place of stress and emotional discomfort. And certainly I think that those are some of the biggest predators that we face as humans, is like stresses and emotional challenge and the way that we hurt each other, whether it's intentional or unintentional. And so we're still figuring out how to appropriately process those emotions and those challenges. And for now, our body, as we're figuring it out, just kind of holds on to it and stores it, and we can pass that on, pass that down through generations. So, all of the work that you do for you do for the entire lineage before you. So anybody who had that emotional experience that you inherited, through that lineage, it is cleared and it's released as you do your healing work. And then for any generation that comes after you as well. So for me, I don't have children of my own, but I've got a nephew who I absolutely love. So if he also, through my sister, inherited any of the stuff that I'm releasing, I know that he has the benefit that he'll experience that too. And if he has children in the future, then they won't have to deal with that because of what I dealt with. And that's really cool. So know that any work that you do for yourself, you're also doing for any of the generations before and any of the generations to come after. Plus, I think that it makes you a better person. So you have the opportunity then also to not pass your stuff on indirectly to the people around you. So it's kind of a win-win-win-win-win situation. Yeah, awesome. Hello to Ashley. It's wonderful to see you. It's such a beautiful day. Thank you for joining us. So so I didn't have any other questions that were kind of popping up. If you guys have anything that you want to talk about, please feel free to jump in. I know that I posted quite late today that we were going to be on doing our show. Actually, one of the things that was popping up for me this past full moon that we experienced last Sunday was Archangel Ariel. And for somebody who has worked with angels for as long as I have, Archangel Ariel is actually a fairly new energy for me to become aware of, to become familiar with. So let's just do a really quick poll. Let me know in the comments. And I also know that there's a bit of a delay, so I'll talk for a minute so you can let me know. Who has had experience with Archangel Ariel that they're aware of? Let me just know here in the comments. Some of the things that she is. So actually, hold on. I'm going to back up a step. A big part of her energy, first of all, she does come through with a feminine energy, and I should say the angels aren't gendered. Gender really comes from us, because that's part of how we identify, how we understand, and so we've actually placed gender or characteristics in that way onto the angels. So know that they are ungendered, but I do refer to them as him and her, and so just to throw that out there. And so I do experience Archangel Ariel in a very feminine way. She comes through with a lot of strength, and she sits back and she's kind of like, you go girl. Like she's got that really strong girlfriend kind of energy, like the one that you would go to if you were having a problem with somebody else who you maybe felt a little bit physically threatened by, or if you're having some challenges and difficulty, she's like, no, like, let's get to the heart of this. Let's stand up. We're not going to run away from it. We're going to sort it out. We're going to figure it out, and we're going to hit it nail on the head. We're going to move forward with this. I also find that she comes through with a lot of justice and a lot of fairness energy, and she's highly connected to the into the elemental realm as well. Often Archangel Ariel comes through either with a lion or sometimes even with like a lion's head. She's also highly connected to the energy of lions. And through that, family comes through too, and leading, standing your ground, being courageous. Let me just see here. Oh, awesome. So Chantel is saying that she's working with Ariel to get her little bear back. That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Archangel Ariel is definitely connected with animals, the animal kingdom, and as I said, with elemental kingdom too. So anyway, when we were connecting, or when I was connecting rather, to the energy of the full moon this year, I'll just throw this back up on the thing so people can see what I'm talking about. Here we go. This was the strawberry moon that we enjoyed here. Pardon me. On last Sunday evening. Excuse me. And as I was sitting and watching the moonrise, I thought, wow, this is really powerful. And I felt this power in me and next to me, connecting with me, and it was incredible. And it was Archangel Ariel, and her messages were to really stand your ground, to not back down, to focus on the task at hand. And one of the other aspects that she was talking about too, was starting new path, and the feeling of being pulled or drawn to start to make new connections, to start to look at new opportunities and new perspectives, as well. So lots of newness, like releasing of the old. Yes, absolutely. That's definitely coming up. But there are also a lot of opportunities that are coming up, and the potential for uh, change that's taking you out of what you may perceive as being your current trajectory. I think that's the best way to do it, because when we look at our current trajectory, usually it's kind of maintaining the balance or the status quo. That's kind of how I see it. But this felt like we were taking action and we were taking steps, to make other opportunities for ourselves, to step into something that wasn't the status quo, that maybe wasn't completely comfortable, but was still part of the path and the direction that we were taking. So going back to Carrie's question that she asked earlier about, what do we have coming up for the next couple of weeks? It feels like that's also part of that energy too. And I can see that being part of the reason that we need to let go of that old stuff. Because if you've got that old stuff weighing you back, dragging you back, it's more difficult to take these new, fresh steps forward. So get rid of that old stuff so that you can focus on new stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Chantel says that she also stands for courage and strength. Absolutely, 110%. She helps to imbue us with uh, courage, strength, the ability to stand our ground. I think that's one of the biggest ways that she helps and supports us. And anytime that we are being confronted with something that isn't fair or isn't just, I feel Archangel Ariel coming up around us as well. Again, helping us to stand our ground, but to make sure that we're also not overly compromising. Sometimes I have a hard time talking about that and saying that, because compromise is important. You can't always have your way, and the other people around you can't always have their way either. That's why we need compromise, because sometimes doing things where we have a bit of both sides together is actually the best thing for everybody. But sometimes people take compromise too far, and they end up being the only ones who are doing the compromising. And I see Archangel Ariel really helping and supporting people who are in that position really stand up for themselves, really take back their power. And truly, she's like that girlfriend that you have who's like, hey, like, don't stand for this anymore. Let's make a change. Let's get things going. Let's hop. And from that perspective, she has a bit of similarity to Archangel Michael as well, because she'll really help to get you either back on track, back on path, or help you to like get into the path that you're meant to be on. So yeah, she's really powerful. So over the next little while, make sure you call on Archangel Ariel if you're finding yourself stuck. And she doesn't necessarily specifically work with people from a healing perspective. However, if doing that healing work helps you to connect with the path that you're meant to be on, then absolutely Archangel Ariel is going to be there and she'll be able to help and support you. So definitely call on her. And see how it feels to connect with her. She does have some colors that come up around her, but one of the things that I find really important when you're connecting with angels is to allow you to have your own experience with them. I can sit here and tell you all about the experiences that I have with them, but in a way, I think that takes part of the opportunity that you have your own experiences. And one of the things that I think is really important about connecting with your spirituality and connecting with spirituality in general is that you are having your own experiences. You'll probably find people, hopefully, you'll find people along the way to help guide you and support you. But I have found that the best guides tend to be the ones who encourage you and support you in having your own experiences. So, from that perspective, I'm not going to talk as much about how I experience her beyond beyond everything that I've already talked about. Awesome. Awesome. And happy Father's Day to Sue's dad. That's awesome. And you know what? Happy Father's Day to all of the dads who have crossed over, who have passed over, who aren't here with us. Happy Father's Day to all of the dads who are with us. And happy Father's Day to all of the uncles and the male friends and the grandfathers and the mums who are also dads. Happy Father's Day to everybody who is playing that amazing male role model role in our children's lives. You know, it takes a community for sure, but dads are a really important part of that. So happy Father's Day. Awesome. And Jennifer's asking about getting some new cards. Oh, about getting cards. You mean pulling cards for you today? I'm not doing readings today, Jennifer. I do readings on my Tuesday night show. Bobbi was on last week, and Bobbi does do mediumship readings when it's just her. But I do that on my show on Tuesday nights. I'm Erin Lee of Heavenly Messenger, and you can find me on Facebook or on my YouTube page. And I also broadcast to the Universal Connections Facebook page as well. I do that at 7 p.m. Pacific on Tuesday evenings, and we should be back this week. So please hop over then. I would love to connect with you and do a reading for you. Awesome. And hello to Lori Ann. It's wonderful to see you. Do hummingbirds visit for a reason? Yeah, absolutely. Hummingbirds often, spirit often comes through hummingbirds. And so if you're seeing a lot of hummingbirds, that could be deceased loved ones getting your attention, letting you know that they're around, that they want you to know that they're around. And I know that there are other reasons that hummingbirds visit too. And to be completely honest, off the top of my head, I can't remember what the other readings are. Other reasons are, other than spirit letting you know that they're around. When you have an experience where something is really speaking to you. So, say for example, Lorianne is talking about hummingbirds having a purpose. So there's obviously something that you have connected with the fact that they are visiting, either the way that they're visiting, the time that they're visiting, and to help identify who that could be or what that message is. It can be really helpful to sit, to clear your mind, to become aware of the presence of the hummingbird and to ask, what do I need to know? Who is sending you? Who are you representing? Or is there something that I need to focus on? And when you breathe, when you relax, and when you ask, whoever or whatever comes to you, whether it pops in your mind, you see a visual, you start hearing some words, you start hearing maybe a joke or something that will possibly remind you of somebody, you feel a sensation in your body, pay attention, because that's what the message is. That's what they're trying to share. And I'm also feeling that hummingbirds are messengers too. That's just kind of popping into my head as we're talking. So it feels like they do absolutely deliver messages for something else, from something else. But that, yeah, definitely. Anytime that you notice that there is something outside of yourself that is speaking to you, ask why it's there. One that's really significant for me is rainbows. And I had a really beautiful experience several weeks ago with a client of mine, who I've spoken to many times since her husband had passed. And we had been talking about him, and she was talking, and she was saying, I wonder if this is what he is trying to get across to me. And I just happened to look out my window, and there was this beautiful, vibrant, stunning rainbow. And I said to my client, hold on just a second. I have to go and take a picture of this to send you, because it is so significant with what you were asking about. And so the message was that he was, in agreement with whatever it was that she was asking about, whatever it was that she was talking about. And that felt in a lot of ways more significant than me just saying it to her, because it was something that was completely outside of both of us. Much as I might joke around and pretend to be, I am definitely not God. I do not have the ability to bring about rainbows, and it is seriously just a joke. So when you see something outside of yourself that is speaking to you, that is asking you to pay more attention to it, feel free to ask for more information, for clarity in the messages. I truly see the interaction and the connection and the communication that we have with our higher self, with our intuition, with God, source, universe, angels, ascended masters, deceased loved ones on the other side. It is not one-way communication. It doesn't only come to us. We have the ability and the opportunity to communicate back and to say, hey, I don't understand the full message that you're sharing. What do you mean? Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? Can you be more specific for me, or help to clarify what that message is? And that piece of information, when you're coming into awareness of your own intuition, your own psychic ability, I think is really significant, because it means that you are not passive in the process, that there are things that you can do, that you can ask, that you can build, that you can grow, and you can develop a relationship, which I think is incredibly profound and empowering and absolutely amazing. So I'd encourage you to ask. And over time, you might start to come to your own, or rather create your own kind of spirit dictionary. Oh yeah, when I see rainbows, that means that my Uncle Bob is saying hi. He's letting me know that he's okay. That's awesome. It just fills up my heart. Or you might see repeating numbers, and you're like, oh man, that jokester Jamie over there, that message is from him. I have a friend who is petrified of birds, and a friend of hers passed away when they were both quite young. And he comes and visits her in birds because it freaks her out, and he thinks it's absolutely hilarious. So pay attention and see what comes up for you when you have these experiences, because that's what the message is. Awesome. And hello to Kareen. It's always so good to see you. I'm so glad that you joined us today. Thanks for popping on. Strangest things, hummingbirds don't live here, and yet I saw one in the garden, physically present, clear as day. That's from Chantel. And Chantel, I believe you're over in the Netherlands. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So that's really interesting. I had no idea that hummingbirds weren't over in your area of the world. But man, isn't that incredible to have that experience, to have one pop in, or that spirit has shown you so strongly and clearly that hummingbird is there. That's amazing. Yeah. And Lori Ann is saying, close up never happened before. A cousin died recently. Absolutely. That can definitely be one of the ways that they come through to let you know that they're around. The son of a friend of mine passed very suddenly a couple of years ago, and he showed us that he was around in butterflies. Butterflies were all over the place, leading up to his funeral ceremony and to the celebration of life that we had after. And I mean, um, butterflies are also a symbol and sign of transformation, because of the transformation that they go through themselves, but also in general. So the fact that he surrounded us in butterflies was just absolutely amazing, to let us know that he was okay, and that he was on the other side and he was safe. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense that a cousin had just recently passed. So that can absolutely be him letting you know that he's safe, that he's okay, that he's well. And so continue to pay attention to hummingbirds, and to see what comes up for you when they appear. Yes. And hello to Arlene. Thanks for joining us. And Lorianne is also saying it makes sense that Spirit in the Sky song repeats on your playlist. Absolutely. So yeah, Spirit, particularly when they first cross over, it's really difficult for them to build up the energy to be able to come down to connect with us, um, on a very energetic level. And Bobbi has talked about this too. Bobbi, of course, has, as a born medium, has way more knowledge, experience, and understanding about it than I do. But what I've experienced is that, basically, when we communicate with our loved ones on the other side, we need to raise our energy up, and they need to lower their energy down, so that we can find this balance place where we're able to connect and to communicate with each other. And it takes time for them to build up that energy on the other side. So often they'll piggyback on the energy of somebody, a loved one on the other side who's been there longer. So, say, for example, a grandparent died many, many years ago, comes through very clearly, very easily, connecting with the people who are still here. He might help out somebody who has recently crossed over, so that they can come down and say, "Hey, like, I'm okay, I'm all right." But things that are really easy for Spirit to manipulate are electronics. It's really easy for them to start flickering with lights, or to scramble your playlist to make sure that you're hearing that song, or bringing in music on the radio, something again that you have no control over. So pay attention to those things. They definitely come through in music, or you might start hearing like song lyrics in your head, and that's true. I mean, that's true of Spirit. Song lyrics in your head is one of the ways that we can receive clairaudient information. So if you haven't been around for a while, and those who have been, you'll be like, "Oh my gosh, Erin, we're not going to talk about the clairs again, are we?" Yes, we are. So there are 4 primary ways that we receive intuitive messages and information, and this includes messages from Spirit and deceased loved ones. They're basically pathways or conduits that we use to receive information, and we receive intuitive messages there. We can receive messages from God, Source, Universe, and angels, and our deceased loved ones, ascended masters. They all use the same highway to get through, to connect with us. And so the 4 primary ones are claircognizance, which means clear knowing, so thoughts and ideas popping into your head. Clairaudience, which is clear hearing. So you might hear like your own internal voice, or you might hear like somebody else's voice in your head. You could hear words outside of you. So like music playing is a prime example of clairaudience. Or you could have song lyrics pop into your head too. Like you're thinking about somebody, or you've got a question, or something isn't making sense. Boom, song lyrics pop into your head, and like, oh, that's the answer. So that's a form of clairaudience. We have clairvoyance, which means clear vision or clear sight. So repeating numbers, like seeing 444, seeing hummingbirds, seeing rainbows, and those things being messages for us. That's all clairvoyance. You can also see images in your mind's eye. So sometimes things just kind of pop in, and you see them in like almost like a little movie theater screen in your brain, in your third eye. You can also see things outside of yourself. So for example, if Chantel didn't physically see but felt that she physically saw a hummingbird, that could be an example of clairvoyance. And in no way am I suggesting that there wasn't physically one there, but I was just going to say, if that was the case, then that would definitely be Spirit or Ascended Master, or deceased loved one, somebody, giving a message in that way. And then the last way is clairsentience, which means clear feeling, and that manifests both in terms of physical sensation in the body. So sometimes people will hear something or they'll see something and it really resonates with them and they get goosebumps all up and down their arms. That's a form of clairsentience. The that gut feeling, that gut instinct, or some like feeling like the pit of your stomach is going to fall out. That's clairsentience. That's a clairsentient message. Going into a room and feeling the tension or the emotion in a room without speaking to anybody. That's clairsentience. Picking up on other people's emotions. That's clairsentience too. So there are all of these different pathways. And then there are, I would call them smaller pathways only because they aren't always used. And I kind of lump them in under clairsentience, but they actually have their own names. And that is clear smelling. And I can never remember what they are. It's a clair. There's clear smelling and clear taste. And I find that for me, that typically comes through with spirit, because for spirit, they had those physical experiences while they were here. So, for example, if somebody who crossed over was a big smoker, then when they come through, you might smell the brand of the cigarettes that they always smoked. Or if you strongly associate a deceased loved one with a particular taste, like maybe your grandmother had a food that she was really well known for making, or it really reminds you of her, then you might taste that. And that's part of her letting you know that she's around, or you might smell it. Another one would be like car oil. If somebody was really handy, really enjoyed working with cars, possibly was a mechanic, then when they come through, you might smell car oil because that's a scent that you really associate with them. So, yeah, all of our senses are pathways to connect with source and universe. Typically, not exclusively, but typically, I experience smell and taste with deceased loved ones because they want to share, they want to continue to experience those physical things because that's part of what they miss. It's kind of like if you haven't been home to have your grandmother's cooking for a while, or she's been gone for a while, then it's a really special treat when you can experience that. So that's kind of what it's like for them. Awesome. Let me see. Okay, I know I've missed a couple of them here. Yes, and Chantel's saying she is in the Netherlands. That's amazing. And amazing that she saw it. Absolutely. I mean, that's so incredible. That's beautiful. And Corrine says that she loves hummingbirds, that she has a hummingbird feeder, have a seed feeder tube. Oh, that you fill every other day, and a cage of suet too. That's awesome. It's a wonderful way to bring birds in. Feed them. Not only with men, the way to their hearts is their stomach, but birds too. Yeah, and Arlene, pardon me, Arlene is saying that her dad comes back as a butterfly. Oh, and he poses as you take pictures. That's incredible. What a beautiful gift. Thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Lorianne is saying thank you for reinforcing that her dad is helping him out. Absolutely. The same way that family gathers when we have a new baby that's being born, our deceased loved ones, our deceased family, they gather on the other side, and they wait for us in the same way. The idea that when we pass on, that light is like another birthing canal that we are going through, and we're going into the new world, like that is kind of what's happening on the other side. Our loved ones are waiting for us. They know. Um, if they don't know specifically when you pass, they know once you get there. So they're there and they're waiting for you. And I believe the experience that I've had is that our families extend beyond what we have had as blood family here. Here I see friends as being the family that we choose. We aren't born into all of the families that we are going to have. So we have the friends, or pardon me, the family that we choose in the form of friends. Um, but on top of that, we have our soul families too. And we aren't always born into our soul families. We usually experience those people throughout our lifetimes. Like sometimes you'll meet somebody and you'll be like, wow, feels like I've known you forever. And it's because you have, because they're part of your soul family too. So, it's not only the loved ones that we may have known in this lifetime, but it's also soul family on the other side too. So there's a lot of love and support that's waiting for us when we get to the other side. Yeah. And Chantel says, I connected in days with my mother. She approved the funeral arrangements and flowers. That's amazing. That's awesome. Yeah. And, sometimes people, when they are here, they're really spiritually advanced, or they've done a lot of work themselves, and I've found that it tends to be easier for them to come down and connect to. And of course it depends on where you are in your level of consciousness and awareness. And often deceased loved ones, in those first couple of days, the week, they'll be really close and present because you're going through that grieving process, and they're going through a bit of that process too. So they definitely can come through a lot more easily in those initial couple of days and get that bump too. Yeah, and Chantel says she smells her mother's perfume. Absolutely. That's another way that they come through too, through that sense of smell. And Kareen saying, I wonder who's this pesky squirrel. I wish that I knew. One of the things we don't really have over here on Vancouver Island, speaking of, things that aren't typically here, we don't have a lot of squirrels. I don't know that I've seen any squirrels here. So yeah, if you're on Vancouver Island too, let me know. Maybe I'm just weird and I'm just not seeing them. Or possibly chipmunks. Hold on. We do have one of them, but we don't have the other. Anyway, yes. And Chantel saying that she's finding soul family all over the world. Absolutely. Because we're not just born into one place. Our soul families are big and they're extensive. Part of what I have experienced for people is that we often have lives. We often have experiences as spirit guide, shortly before we incarnate. And so typically into shortly before we incarnate into this world. So sometimes people will have very vivid memory and recollection of things, in particular things like the Holocaust or World War II, or things that have happened in fairly recent history. Without getting too out there, the experience that I've had so far, and that could certainly change, is that we don't incarnate really quickly. We do take time on the other side. There's a lot of healing, a lot of learning that we do, a lot of growth that we do on the other side before we're able to incarnate again. And so typically we wouldn't have two lifetimes within the same century. But what I did see for people who have had these really intense experiences is that they were a spirit guide for somebody who was living through that experience. And so although they didn't have the physical real world experience of being in that, they were a guide for a person who was. And so they, through that, had that experience, and it was very real and very lifelike because there was a way in which they were also living through it too. And then they incarnated, and now they're here. And my feeling, my understanding, the experience that I've had is that our spirit guides are typically part of that bigger soul family that we have and that we experience too. And that's part of the contract that we have. So sometimes those souls are preparing to come down to have life here. Sometimes they're just spirit guides, and they focus and they keep cycling through because that's part of either where they are in their training, or maybe there are multiple apprenticeships spirit guide wise that they go through. We all have lots of different callings. So, but overall, that those souls are part of our bigger overall soul family that we experience. And that's pretty exciting too. Yeah. Let me see. Okay, Nancy, thank you so much for clarifying that. Nancy said, we don't have chipmunks, but we do have lots of black and gray squirrels here on the island. And that makes sense because I'm looking over at our neighbor's house and I'm like, I know that I've seen little things over there. And after I said that we don't have squirrels, I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure they were, but it's chipmunks. We don't have chipmunks here. Thank you. And Kareen says that she feeds the pesky squirrel crack corn. Well, that certainly explains why he's around. Nancy's saying, I find feathers, particularly eagle feathers, and my daughter is now finding them almost weekly. Her dad, my first husband, died when she was 2. Oh, I'm sorry. her brothers, 4 and unborn at the time. Um, he has sent eagle feathers, and eagles and feathers in a profound way for 29 years now. That is incredible. That is so beautiful and so incredibly powerful. The eagles are so majestic and amazing. What a beautiful gift for all of you to have and to share. That's incredible. I know that I certainly really appreciate finding and connecting with them too when I find them. So that's amazing. I'm so glad that he visits in that way. And Mike, hello, welcome from Manchester, England. It's wonderful to see you. Thanks for joining us today. Oh, and Mike is saying that they also don't have chipmunks there. So there you go. Where are chipmunks? I know that we used to have them in the lower mainland. So the western coast of Canada, they are there. Yeah. Let me know if chipmunks are around you. Chantel, if you're still on in the Netherlands, do you guys have chipmunks? Let us know. So I thought I would also do another little bit of show and tell since we don't have any questions at the moment, but please feel free to offer question or comment if you've got anything coming up. So I said show and tell, but I'm not 100% sure that you guys are going to be able to see this with the poor lighting that I have here today. So last 2 weeks ago on the show, we were talking about soulmate relationships and connections and how to invite in romance. And I talked about rhodochrosite. And my little fairy angel crystal giver, Carrie, the other day, dropped off this beautiful piece of rhodochrosite for me. So I'll have to take a picture so that you guys can see a little more clearly. But it's pink. It has a lot of white. It has little bits of gray or little bits of black. But one of the things that really differentiates rhodochrosite from rhodonite, rhodonite is very plentiful here on Vancouver Island. Rhodonite is, again, this really beautiful pink color, but it tends to have a lot of black veining in it and very little white, where rhodochrosite is the opposite, where it typically has little or no black or gray, but it will have a lot of white and lighter pink colors in it. So rhodochrosite is one of these beautiful crystals that's incredibly powerful and amazing in terms of compassion, in terms of love, and it's really wonderful for connecting with soulmate romantic partnership relationships. So thank you, Carrie, for bringing that over so that I could share it with everybody else and stick it in my bra when I wear one. Let me see. Hold on a second. We always end up getting the spammers on the call. So my apologies if anybody has experienced that today. So Nancy's saying that he was a paramedic and an eagle. Oh my gosh, an eagle sat on his station roof for 3 weeks after the funeral. He made sure that we saw that he would be showing himself that way. That is incredible. I love how our loved ones show us how they're going to come through so that we can pay attention and we can watch for them. And they often do give us a lot of signs right around the time of their passing, around the time of their funeral, and on anniversaries as well. So birthdays, they can really come through strongly to let us know. So even if, say, for example, you miss how they're going to connect with you, and that can happen, like if they don't have somebody close by to pop down to help them connect to show, sometimes that can happen, or we can be so caught up in our grief that we aren't paying attention and we don't notice. But they can continue to come through on anniversaries and birthdays and other really significant times as well. Yeah. Yeah, and Chantel saying that she doesn't think that they have chipmunks, but they do have squirrels. Yeah, and okay. And Mike, thank you for this. Mike saying chipmunks tend to live in North America and parts of Asia in the wild. Well, that's really interesting. I had no idea. So that certainly explains why, we had experiences with them living on the mainland, but I guess they haven't made it over here yet to the island. Let me see. So Korean's saying that there's a roost of 20 vultures nearby, and the crows chase them away, squawking. They put on a fantastic air show. You know what? The same happens here too. We have a lot of eagles that live here on the island, particularly close to the water, and the seagulls and the crows and the ravens, they chase them. And it's so funny because you've got these huge, beautiful, majestic eagles, and they're being chased by a crow or by a seagull that are sizable, but they're a lot smaller. So yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, and Mike's saying none in England apart from a zoo, and that's the squirrels. Yeah. And Carrie's saying my mom gave me a peacock feather once in Victoria on my birthday. That's beautiful. Yeah, what a wonderful way to come through. Feathers are such a beautiful way, and of course, like with the wings, that's wonderful. Okay. Oh, awesome. Nancy has a question about tarot cards. Is there a time that is optimum for receiving messages, moon cycles, morning versus nighttime? There are times my readings are amazing, and other times it's quite dry. Wondering if it's a mindset or timing. Yeah. Okay. So, first of all, I'm going to clarify and to say that the cards that I read are oracle cards as opposed to tarot cards. There is a little bit of a difference between them. And I'm only going to mention that because it could be that tarot is a little different than oracle. So tarot cards are very structured. They're going to have typically 78 cards, pardon me. And it's broken into the 22 minor arcana and the 56 major arcana. The major arcana are further broken down into the 4 suits that are like our playing cards. The only difference is there is an additional suit card, or pardon me, court card. So in playing cards, we have Jack, Queen, King. And in addition to those, there is a page and a knight instead of a jack. So that's where we get 56 instead of 52, like our playing cards. So there is more structure with tarot cards, where oracle cards are cards that typically revolve around a theme. They don't have to have any sort of structure. It all depends on what the creator has done with them. But I mention that only because there are those differences between tarot and oracle. As far as I'm aware, there aren't any differences in terms of like how you use them and when you use them and when they're most effective. So having said all of that, when it comes to reading your own cards, there are a couple of things that I find to be really important. One, to be in the right headspace to be reading cards for yourself. So that usually means not having a lot of other distractions going on. I like to kind of take a couple of breaths, create a bit of space for myself, and make sure that I am really ready and really open to receiving the true and authentic message. So, often there are things that I don't really get accurate messages around when I pull cards because I have a really set idea of what I want to hear and what I want to see, and that really gums up the process. So for me, it has to do with romance and love life. I very rarely will pull cards for myself around those things because I'm not able to detach myself enough, my expectations enough from the answer that I want to receive. So I don't even ask about that. So there isn't necessarily a better time unless you feel that there's a better time. So for you, maybe it's really important that you meditate to before you pull cards because that helps you to feel that you're connected. Maybe having ritual around like the full moon or having it part of your morning ritual or part of your bedtime ritual is helpful and supportive for you because those are better times for you to listen and to connect. I know when I really first started my journey with this, it was back 18 plus years ago. And I was in a job that wasn't really suited to me. I wasn't enjoying it. And I wasn't on a path that felt good for me. And so one of the things that I would do to help transition from my work head into my, okay, I'm going to calm down and I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to have a good sleep, was to connect with my angels and to pull cards before I went to bed at night. And that was perfect for me. Sometimes if you're asking the same question over and over and over again, okay, first of all, sometimes you're asking it over and over and over again because you're looking for a different answer, because what came up wasn't what you wanted to hear. And so it comes out being kind of stale because it's the same thing over and over, or it's confusing. It doesn't seem like it relates at all to what you're asking about. And often that will happen because you've been asking too much and you are refusing to see or to hear what is actually coming through. And so it's just like, okay, well, I can't talk to you about this. Imagine imagine you are having a conversation with someone and you're trying to tell them the point as clearly and as simply as you can, but they are absolutely refusing to hear what you say. Sometimes you're just like, okay, well, just whatever you think it is, that's fine. And so sometimes that's how messages will come through. So if you're getting really lackluster messages like that, it could be that that's why. Other reasons that you could be getting messages coming through that seem like they're kind of muddled, or they're not really clear, or they're not really making a lot of sense. Your cards hold on to energy. So I know that there are some people who will not let anybody else touch their cards because that person's energy kind of mucks it up or gums it up. That is a thing that can happen. So, making sure that you're clearing your cards and treating them like the valuable tool that they are. So, one of the things that I talk about when I teach people about developing intuition is we talk about the place that our tools have. And our tools can be anything from dowsing rods to cards to crystals to pendulums to other divination tools. To recognize that the tool is only as powerful as you are. And so I use this analogy. If you have a master carpenter, he or she probably has a hammer that fits really nicely in their hand. When they hit the nail, it hits it really well. I don't know, maybe they need to like dig it out and it works really well. It's balanced in their hand. Probably spent a lot of money on it. It's pretty special, it's pretty amazing, and it's great. And then you have somebody like me who hits her thumb more often than she hits the nail. I've got a cheap Canadian Tire dollar store hammer that I use, and that's kind of it. If you were to give me the special master carpenter's hammer and say, Erin, please nail that nail into that piece of wood, I will continue to hit my thumb. Even though this is a really kick-ass, amazing hammer that can build incredible and amazing things. You could also turn around and you could give that master carpenter my crummy Canadian Tire dollar store hammer, and you could say, hey, could you build a beautiful piece of furniture? And because the master carpenter has the skills, they could likely take that hammer and build you a beautiful piece of furniture. The power is not in the tool. Me using the master carpenter's hammer doesn't mean that my skills are going to improve. And it doesn't mean that his or her skills are going to become less because they're using a subpar hammer. And so the same is true with your tools. In the same way that I wouldn't leave a hammer outside overnight in the rain, I would also make sure that I care for my cards well as well. So all of the tools that you use are powerful because of who you are and also the respect that you give them as well. So it is important to treat your tools well, and part of that could be doing energy clearing on them too. So when I first started doing readings, my teacher used to keep crystals on top of her cards, and she did other things as well. But what she really shared with me at that point was that she had crystals that she used. She did let other people shuffle her cards for her. That wasn't a big deal because she would clear them out after, and she had rules that she had set up about that that. And we've kind of talked about that on the show in the past as well. Universal contract of service, and asking for help and support from your angels and ascended masters and beings of light to keep your tools clear. But making sure that the energy of your cards has been cleaned. So, because that can be really helpful. But definitely your mindset, I find, plays the biggest role in terms of how clear your messages are. Your mindset, your openness, and the clarity of the question that you're asking also can have an impact on the clarity of the reading that you have. If you ask a really vague question, then it can be really difficult to answer. So, being clear about the question that you're asking, and also sometimes messages will come through if it's not an answer you're supposed to have. So, it is possible that you could ask a question that for whatever reason you aren't supposed to know the answer, particularly if that involves somebody else or if you're asking on behalf of somebody else. So, for example, I might have somebody come to see me for a reading and they might want to know something about their ex-boyfriend. Well, that's maybe not their place to know or their right to know. And so even though I could ask on their behalf, I typically don't, because for me that crosses boundaries. But if I were to ask, then and to pull cards for it, the cards could come up really confusing as well, because it's not something that she's supposed to know. So as long as you're making sure that, one, you're in the right headspace, two, your tools are clear, three, that you're clear in the question that you're asking, and four, it is something that you can ask or that you might have a right to know, then you're everything should be clear with your readings. I have gotten so far away. We've had more messages kind of coming through. Oh, here, Nancy. Thank you, Nancy. That was an awesome question. And I hope that I explained it thoroughly enough. Awesome. Ooh, we've got Bobbi. I'm so glad that you popped on tonight. So Bobbi's saying, when you are concentrating on yourself is a great time to receive messages. Ooh, like in the bathroom mirror. That's amazing. Hi, Erin. I love you. I love you too, Bobbi. I'm so glad that you hopped on tonight. Yeah, so that's a wonderful thing. I've never actually tried that. I've never tried receiving messages while looking in the bathroom mirror. I think, Bobbi, the next week that we're on together, which will probably be next week, I think that we should do that. So everybody, bring a little mirror with you. We're gonna do messages with Bobbi for that. That sounds like a lot of fun. I love you too, Bobbi. Let me see. So Mike's saying that they have wild red and gray imposter squirrels, but you only see chipmunks in a zoo. That's cool. That's really cool. Leslie's saying, thank you so much for taking time from your dad. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. And I will thank my dad also for letting me have some time away. He's up watching the golf right now and really enjoying himself. He's probably taking a nap too. Because we live so close together, I think honestly, me being away for a little bit is probably one of the best gifts that I could have given him on Father's Day. So on his behalf, I'm also going to thank you guys for, occupying me for the last hour. And Nancy, you are so welcome. I'm glad to help with that. A lot of people aren't aware of the differences between tarot and oracle cards, and I honestly don't know enough about tarot to speak really clearly on them. Except I do know those little bits and pieces and differences. So I believe that what I've said about oracle cards, with respect to the question that you had, like clear readings, I believe that all of those things would stand true for tarot cards as well. Let me see. Gray squirrels, ooh, that's interesting, are an American infestation and class as a problem that challenges the local red squirrel population in the UK. They compete for the same food. Yeah. The American infestation. I can certainly see that. And Jerry's saying that she loves the pendulum for confirmation. What comes into my mind? Yes. Yeah, that's, you know what? That's a really wonderful way to use your tools. So, the pendulum is actually a form of dowsing. It is in the same realm of things as muscle testing, as dowsing rods, and actually as scrying and crystal bowl crystal bowl work. Pardon me, crystal ball. What am I saying? Anyway, they're all in the same realm, and one of the things that can be really helpful with using those types of tools is it helps you to recognize when you're right, when you get a yes, when you get a no. And so if you're working on developing your intuition, it can be really helpful to start off by understanding how yes feels, or how yes is represented to you, and how no is represented to you. And a pendulum is a wonderful way to do that, because over time, as you use your pendulum, and particularly if you have it trained so that yes is in one direction and no is in another direction, you'll start to feel that energy come into your body, and you'll be like, oh, before your pendulum even starts moving, yeah, that's a yes, that's right. And the reason that this is so helpful is because when you start connecting, say, with spirit or deceased loved ones, you can start asking them yes and no questions. You can start asking for clarity. Oh, so I think what you're saying is X, Y, and Z. Is this right? Yes. Oh, great. No, it's not right. Okay, well, is it this, or is it that, or is it this? And you can start honing. Yes and no questions are a lot easier to answer than really open-ended questions. So yeah, your pendulum is a wonderful tool for helping to learn that. Excellent, excellent. Oh, and fabulous, Chantel. Thank you. Chantel saying that it is the same for tarot. So, pardon me. What we were talking about with the oracle cards is true for tarot too. Fabulous. You guys, my cough is starting to come up and to come back. So I think I am going to take that as my cue to say goodnight to all of you. I am so incredibly blah, blah, blah. I'm so incredibly grateful that each of you have taken time out of your day to be here with me today. It is such a gift and a pleasure and an honor to connect with you. I believe that Bobbi and I will be back next weekend on Sunday at 3:30 Pacific, which is 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, for our Oracle chats. We will also have more information about our next guest who will be joining us on July the 10th. We're super excited about that. One of our intentions when we started doing the Universal Connections was to bring on people with different experiences. I know this person, and Bobbi knows them. I won't say gender, knows them as well. And I know that we're going to have an awesome time together. So I hope that you will join us on live on July the 10th, I think it is. It will be the second weekend in July. So until then, I will be live this coming Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific, which is 10 p.m. Eastern Time, on my Facebook channel, Heavenly Messenger, as well as Heavenly Messenger YouTube, and Universal Connections on Facebook. So if you have specific reading questions that you would like, that's where I do my live readings. Otherwise, we will see you next Sunday. Thanks again. Hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Happy Father's Day to all of the fathers and all of those who play father-like roles in the lives of our kids. You are amazing. We love you. Thanks for being here. Good night, everyone.